Reiki blessings. I wanted to talk a little bit today about the challenges, but also the delights of being I'll just put it under the phrase energy healer. Okay. I'm a Reiki master practitioner. I don't really like the word master because it just has so much, I'm a master. I don't know about that. Anyway, that's what it's called when you do your level 3 Reiki certification courses. So I think what I want to talk about is how there's so many challenges when you're doing work like this, and you don't have to be somebody who's actually providing a service. I don't really take money anymore. I don't book clients. I may go back to doing that at some point. I don't know, for oracle card readings or Reiki sessions, which I used to. But there's a lot of us out there and who know that you are holding light, anchoring light, and that your frequency is actually shifting and changing energy when you come into contact with people. And sometimes you're not even talking about spiritual things, but it's just happening because it's a frequency that you carry within you. So there's a lot of pluses and minuses to that, but it's important for those of us who know that that is a part of our soul contract and a reason that we came here. It's important for us to not give up on that. And I say that because there's been many times in my life that I have felt overwhelmed by my gifts and just wanted a break. I just wanted to do the normal stuff, take care of my yard, hang out with my family, go on trips with my husband. So that's okay too. But I remember going to a fellow practitioner once, and she said to me, I see exactly, you don't even need to start talking. I know who you are. I see who you are. I see how you have all these different ways that you are of service and show up in the light and are there in a spiritual function, in a God force function to help other people and for yourself, your family, your community. And she was right, because I have done that. Like I said, I do Reiki, I do card readings, I do energy art. I've done, I've done art for people from anything to do with their chakras, to their painting their goddess self, to painting a past life, to painting their angels, their spirit guides. I don't know. The light keeps changing on this. Is spirit in the room? Must be the light in the window. Okay. Yes, spirit is saying whenever the lights flicker. So I guess I'm trying to encourage you today that you should never give up on that, because I remember that practitioner saying that to me. She said, you will always need to show up in a way to do this because it's who you are. It's in your divine blueprint, and you will actually start to feel sick and very disconnected and unwell when you're not doing something to show up. For me, the spirit circles, I've always done those in the community. There's lots of different ways that I do that. And I tend to find that the other practitioners that I meet, and I'm going to tell you a story in a second about somebody I met last night, that they also, you know what I mean? So a lot of them started out in medical, and then nurses or therapists, and then they ended up in spiritual, wellness and working with mind, body, soul, and trying to work with all aspects of that. So this card I was going to show you says, calming the waters, peaceful self-regulation. I was looking at these cards, and this is what made me think of this. And I just think this card is so beautiful. But I just love the concept that you have to find a way to calm the waters for yourself, and that to bring yourself back into peaceful self-regulation. Because there's a lot of things going on in the world. And when you are somebody who is a light worker, you tend to take those things on at a whole different level than most people do. You really are extremely sensitive and empathic, and you feel much deeper. You don't know how to regulate your feelings. A lot of times the things that you're teaching other people when you're doing healing sessions, you need to learn to take your own advice, because we tend to be givers, and we don't know how to receive. So it's important that you figure out and when you need to go and get help, okay? Because the other problem we have is that we think, well, we don't need help. We're talking to God every day in all the different ways that we do it. And, we don't need help. We'll figure it out. We got this. Me and God got this, right? And the truth is that there are going to be times that you are going to need help outside of yourself. And you need to not be afraid to ask for that, not be afraid to show up for that, because it's always, and I'm going to tell you a story, there's always growth and evolution that comes from that. Sometimes it's through going to somebody else that God is working through, just like you're trying to do that for other people. And you know what? You could be a bus driver and be somebody who is a light worker. You can be a singer. You can be an author. You can be a nurse. You can be an anything. You can be an anything, okay? This is not just about being a wellness practitioner that's certified, in something. What I'm trying to say to you is that it can be very taxing when you're this kind of person, because you just get to this point where you think you want to be there for everybody. You want to take everything on. You start to take on people's emotions and stuff because you think somehow you're going to process it either consciously or unconsciously. And when you start to feel dysregulated, you have to go back to calming the waters. And then there will be another step there for you. There will be a step in your evolution, in your enlightenment, and the next thing on your path. So yesterday I went out to dinner with a friend of mine, a dear friend from college, and we talked for a couple hours, and then we went to a guided meditation with a Reiki master practitioner. And it was a free event, but only her and I were there. And we ended up talking with this lady who was just so wonderful for like over an hour. And she did a guided meditation that was about springtime and the spring equinox. And I went into, and it was a very short meditation, maybe 5 minutes, 10 tops. I went into such a deep trance from the energy that this lady was holding in this room. And our eyes were closed. But at one point, I felt this energy standing and facing me. And I thought she had gotten up and maybe like came up as a Reiki practitioner and like was standing like this, because I felt someone standing there going like this. But the energy that was coming off of those hands was so powerful and potent and high frequency that it was literally pushing my head back even. Now, I'm not saying that it was hurtful. If it was ever, if you ever feel something that you think, oh, this is, this doesn't feel right, then you need to stop immediately, whatever that thing is that you're participating in, person, situation, whatever. Even if it is, being sold as a healing type event. If something in your gut, in your third eye, in your intuition does not feel right, you need to stop and get yourself out of that situation. Excuse me, I have a little cold. But this energy, and then I realized that she wasn't standing in front of me. I was in a state of bliss, and I was just floating and suspended, and it was just so lovely. But I realized, no, she wasn't, because then I tuned in, and I could feel her presence, her physical presence in the room, that she was still in the chair that she was sitting in, and that she had not gotten up. And then I realized, then a form, I started to see a form in my vision, and I realized that there was a being standing in front of me, and there was a being standing in front of my friend who was over to the left. And these were very tall, thin, slender beings. They had no hair, an oval type head, and like long fingers, and they were sending this energy to us. And then I said to them, because again, if something shows up for you, you should always ask too. And I said, who are you? Because I was wondering if it was my guides, even though I didn't think it was. I knew it was somebody who was sending Reiki to me. I said, who are you? And that's okay. You should ask that. And I immediately heard them say, we are with her, meaning the Reiki practitioner lady that we came to her meditation. They just said very softly, very gently, we are with her. And then the one that was working with me walked around and put his hands on my shoulders. And he said to me, you are going to be experiencing an expansion now. Are you ready for that? I'm trying to think if the word was expansion, acceleration. He said, you are going to be experiencing an acceleration now. Are you ready for that? Now, I didn't really know per se what he meant. I think I felt that what he meant was that, a bump up in my spiritual psychic abilities and gifts. And he was asking my permission. So it was almost like whatever the Reiki, whatever the energy healing frequency he was giving to me was going to allow that to happen. And I said, yes, I've already been noticing that is happening, because I've been getting more messages when I'm at my spiritualist church, and I've been standing up more in front of the congregation and giving messages. to people and feeling comfortable with that. Where when I started there almost 2 years ago, I was very anxious about that. I really enjoyed giving lectures here and there, and I enjoy doing my spirit circle there every month where there's all of us sitting in a circle talking. I create the circle and lead it, but there was something about standing up there and like giving a message with everybody like looking at you, you know what I mean? What is she going to say? And just hoping that whatever I was going to say was going to make sense, but also it was going to serve the person and not confuse them or send them in some kind of wrong direction. Because again, when you're somebody like me, and if you are like that, you worry that you're showing up in the right way and you're helping and serving in the right way. So anyway, after we came out of the meditation, I said to the lady, she said, what did you guys think? And I said, I think you're very powerful. And she said, what? And I was like, well, there were two beings here. And she said, what do you mean? And I said, there were two beings here and they told me that they work with you. I said, were you channeling Reiki? And she said, not consciously, but I am, I think it just happens, because I'm a Reiki practitioner. And I said, these beings were such a high frequency and they could not have showed up here and served me in the way they did if you were not holding your center and being a vessel, a human vessel, but also being so in your divine, so in your light, so in your love frequency, and your giving frequency, that they were able to channel through you. So she was obviously very appreciative of that. And I was very appreciative, and I've scheduled a one-on-one Reiki session with her now because I feel there's more work for me to do with her. And it's a great example of how, I've been going through something personally for a while now, a few months, and it's been very taxing on me because it's in regards to somebody who's very close to me and that I love very much. And I've been losing a lot of sleep and a lot of hair and a lot of everything, okay? And when you get in those situations, you need to remember that you need to self-regulate and you need to calm the waters, okay? You cannot stay in a situation where you feel overwhelmed, whether that be something that's good overwhelm, like you're planning a wedding, or not good overwhelm, like you're grieving something or a loss of something in your life. You need to reach out and you need to get help. And you need to, the help word, it's hard for me to even say the help word, okay? I don't know where I got it from, and maybe you're like that too, but I don't like to ask for help. It's not that I think I can do it better than other people. I just don't like to ask for help. I just feel like I'll figure it out. I don't want to bother anybody. This is for me to figure out. I don't know. You have to trace your belief patterns back to your childhood and pinpoint, when did this actually start? So that's it. And I don't want this video to be too long, but I just wanted to show up today and remind you that whoever you are and whatever you do and whatever your soul plan path is, you have to remember to self-regulate. It has to be a part of your daily care. Just like you would never not take a shower, you would never not brush your teeth, you would never not groom in whatever way you groom. You wouldn't go to the beach with toenails that are like this long. That's the humor break. But if we wouldn't do that, we're talking about toenails, okay? When you are starting to feel dysregulated in your thoughts, overwhelmed, frustrated, confused, when you are starting to feel your emotions are taking you over to the point that you can't think straight, or you're thinking about self-harming, or you're so lost in your emotions that you can't even enjoy your day, when your body is starting to ache and take on your thoughts or your emotions, and you're thinking, there's no reason for why you're sick or why you have an ailment, you have to understand that your mind and your emotions and your body, they are intricately connected. And it's your job to self-regulate and calm the waters. And sometimes the first step is just stepping back and saying, whoa, I am way too deep in these waters that either I've created or somebody else has put upon me, or that I've allowed myself to get involved in. I need to find my center. I need to find my calm, my peace, my connection to whatever God source energy is for me. Because you cannot give to anybody, serve anybody, heal anybody, talk wisdom to anybody if you're in a place of disconnected crazy. So that's my little story about how sometimes having the faith to go out there, and the friend that I went with, she was the perfect friend to go with. She's always held my hand through everything. And she's just been such a stable, good friend my whole life since we were in college together. And we've had a lot of really cool experiences together and a lot of great talks. But, you know, reach out to those people that you know are consistently going to be there for you. And just say to them, hey, I'm a hot mess right now, but I need help. I need you. Can you be here for me? Can you listen? Can we do this thing together? Can we go to this yoga class, this meditation class? Can we, whatever it is. And we shouldn't rely on conferences, retreats, spiritual books, tools. You know, we shouldn't rely on that. But we also have to know that there is a time when there's a reason why God is working through other people, and we have to reach out to those other people and ask for their services, pay for their services, be grateful for their services. Because when you do that, you start to see things in a new way. You start to shake things off. You start to realize how Lulu you've been acting, and you start to remember that you want your peace. You want your self-regulation. You want to be in that state of contentment and happiness and joy and comfort for the bulk of your day. Yes, it is okay to be there for the bulk of your day. You do not have to give yourself away 24/7. You can love and be there for other people and listen without completely discombobulating your entire system. So I think I'm going to end on that, and I hope that helps somebody in some way today. Reiki blessings.